In this video article, we're going to look at how you can approach creating your own bass lines for swing versions of the Beatles. And you'll see how I go about doing it, how I advise the student to do it through the various iterations that are in this video. And there are several musical examples in this video too. Okay, before we get started, if you don't know who I am, my name is Paul Wolf. You can find me at howtoplaybassdotcom. This is a screenshot of my Amazon author page. I've got 27 books there. Today is the, terrible with dates, 16th of August 2025. So currently 27 books there, and there are three more I think, in various stages of writing. So that will grow, and depending on what time or when you get to look at this video, there might be more than 27. I got a student email recently, and the student said, I have several of your books and religiously follow your email lessons and advice. I'm contacting you to see if you have anything in your tools to help me with a specific project I am about to work on. I play a lot of Beatles number in an old man's band. We are all in our 70s. We are planning to work on a set list of Beatles numbers, but develop them in more swingy, jazzy styles. Think Michael Bublé sings Lennon and McCartney as a style. The rhythm and lead guitarist will take the basic chord charts and work on some fancier chords. So my question is, do you publish or have any guidance on how much I have to develop my walking bass lines to reflect the more complex chords? So, interesting challenge. Beatles lines playing in a jazzy, Michael Bublé-esque, maybe Frank Sinatra, big band-esque style. Now, I asked the student for some song examples, and he came back with some, and the one that I picked from there was Can't Buy Me Love, but he said he wanted to play it in G, and I looked at his account on my membership site where all the free online versions of all my books are, and discovered that the student has already got Learning from McCartney Volume 1, and that has a style, and that style has been turned into a MIDI style pack for Band in a Box. One of the styles that covered in that book I codified as McCartney walking pop style. And as I say, that has a style that is a bonus for the book. It's a style that you'd load into Band in a Box, and you can select it and play it, and it will develop a bass line kind of in the walking pop style that McCartney used on songs like All My Loving and songs like that. Now, on the next slide, I've got a screen capture video that I have embedded, which is a 3.5-minute video that I recorded showing how you load. It starts off with chord progression similar to the chorus of Can't Buy Me Love. I then change the key to G, and then I use this style to create a bass line that we'll start with. So let's look at that. Here's the chord progression for the verse of Can't Buy Me Love loaded in Band in a Box. This, as you can see, is in C, key is here, and if I change that to G like that, automatically all the chords will get changed to G. One thing for what I'm about to do, I just have to make sure there's a chord change in every bar, and then if I click here, notation, you can see there's no notation. If I've got to change the instrument, change it to bass, there's no notation. But the minute I press, let's just turn the volume up for the bass. The minute I press generate and play, I've got this McCartney style that I mentioned already preloaded. If I press generate and play, you'll see I've got a bass line. So, not the greatest bass line in the world in terms of a sophisticated walking bass kind of thing, but we're going to develop that. The actual line that I'm going to start off was generated in exactly this method, but I didn't think to screen capture it. The one thing that this exercise with the series of videos that are coming up will allow me to do. It will allow me to use a style, and I already, there we go, Crooner 1 style it's called. So this is a band in a box style, designed for kind of Frank Sinatra style things with a 9-part horn section. I'm going to play it in a second. I'm going to mute the bass because you're not going to hear the band in a box bass, you're going to hear me. The only thing to note is this is designed for 110 as beats per minute as a tempo guidance, so some of the horn lines will just sound a little phased. So you just play it so you can hear what Band in a Box is going to generate as our backing. So that will be the backing for the further examples in this video, just so you know where the sounds are coming from and how I've generated them. And if I just cross back, so that's the chord progression for the verse of Can't Buy Me Love in G. It may be that some of these chords will get reharmonized to 9th chords, and it's possible that someone will do some reharmonization so we don't have 4 bars of G7, for example. But until I see that, this is what we've got to work with and what we'll develop lines from. Okay, so this is example 1. This is the line that I developed using that process that you've just seen in the previous slide with the embed of the screen capture video. You'll know that this is not the embed because I'm now at the top right hand side of the screen rather than the bottom right hand side, and this was taken straight from the process that I did, generated a MIDI file. I exported it to Sibelius, which is my music notation program of choice. I made a couple of very small edits, but this is the line, and on the next slide I've got a demonstration of me playing that. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that bass line. It goes through the chords, does the job of a walking bass line. It's very consonant though. So what I wanted to do was just make a couple of very small changes. So things like, if you look at bar 6, McCartney in the walking pop style, when he's moving from say C7 to G7, will often play C, C, E, F. Nothing wrong with that, works perfectly well. But I've replaced that with C, E, F, F sharp. I think that sounds a little better. I've just made a couple of other minor alterations to the bass line as well. And on the next screen, which is right here, we can have a listen to that example. You'll notice as well that I'm playing quite short notes, something that I often do in various playing scenarios. If you want, you can take the same lines and you can play them much more legato. Totally up to you. To make it a bit swingier, the next thing that I did, and the other thing you'll see on the screen in front of you, is I've annotated annotated all the devices that I'm using to give you an idea. And if you know anything about my device methodology, you'll see these are all very much basic devices that you'd use in rock and pop, but they've been used with a quarter note, predominantly quarter note rhythm, and just given a bit of a lift by using some muted notes just to give us a pickup. And then on bar 12, I play from G, 5th fret of the D string, and then play the open D string, which is quite a walking bassy thing. If your technique is strong enough to execute it as a pull-off, it will sound even more walking bass-like. So on the next screen, on this screen, we can listen to that example. So let's do that. Okay, so I wanted to make that jazzier still. So on this screen, I've put some more, not jazzier, that's the wrong word, but just some more interesting movements in the bass line. So on this screen, I've adapted things up, and the main thing that I did was in bars 2 and 8, I've gone away from the very root note orientation, root note on the downbeat orientation. So in bars 2 and 8, we've got devices that start on the 5. And then the other thing that I did was I played a really simple major triad variation, which you'll hear in the blues. Tommy Shannon uses it loads in bar 4, where it's a major triad, root 3, 5, but then I'm playing the chromatic note between the 5th and the root of the next chord. So we're playing D, D flat, C, which is a really nice way to set up the downbeat of the C7 chord on bar 5. So let's have a listen on this screen to that example. So those bars that started with the 5th were not too bad. Just to show you some of the things you could do, the final example for this video, what I did was I wanted to show and demonstrate something that's not used in rock and pop very much. It's called the 7/3 resolution. The only time I'm consciously aware of seeing it was in a Pino Palladino bass line, one of his kind of bluesy lines with John Mayer. Come When I Call, maybe. Forget the song, but he definitely used it. So what you've got happening, if you look at the end of bar 4, the bass line finishes on the flat 7 of the G7 chord, which is F. And then on the downbeat of bar 5, which is a C7 chord, the first note is E. And what you get is this resolution from the flat 7 of G7 to the 3rd of C7 in the bass line. You'll hear it in a second, and it just gives a slightly more sophisticated sound, and it's very commonly used in jazz bass on jazz tunes rather than these kind of more consonant swing versions of Beatles tunes. And because I wanted to use that, and it meant that I had to go up to G, the octave G at the start of bar 4. I kind of changed around what I was doing in bars 2 and 3. And then in bar 5, I played, so you can see I'm playing 3 down to the root, down to the flat 7, down to the 5. That's just an arpeggio, but it's starting on the 3. So it's quite a different sound, slightly different, gives a bit more sophistication to your line, but very simple to do. Let's have a listen to what it sounds like. So that's a great example of what I often refer to as harmonic drive. Even though we started on the 3, it didn't on that bar 5 on the C7 chord, it didn't sound out of place or strange because everything was set up perfectly, and then the line that started from the 3 just outlined the C7 chord with all 4 notes of the arpeggio. So it worked really well, and those iterations were simple to do once I got the bass line generated in Band in a Box, exported as a MIDI file and imported into Sibelius, and took far less time than it took to talk about them here, but gives someone doing something like this an idea of some of the things that you can do to take a simple line and develop it in layers and make it a bit more interesting and a bit more complex. So that's basically what we've done. We loaded chords into Band in a Box. We started with the McCartney walking pop style. had a series of edits or layering of different ideas to make the bass line a little bit more interesting. And it gives you and gives my student John, and I hope this is really helpful for him, some different options that you can take for swinging the Beatles. Now, the main book cross-referenced in this volume, and the majority of the devices are used in this book, is my book Learning from Paul McCartney Volume 1. And when I created this slide, I suddenly realized that the text on the cover, I should have used a small c in McCartney. Don't know how I missed that. This book's been out for 2 years. First time I've ever seen that. So I found that quite amusing. But you can find this on your local Amazon store. If you purchase it new on Amazon, send me a copy of your invoice. You'll get access to the accompanying online web version. That's got at least 100 examples filmed in the style you've seen in this video, picture in picture, with often on the examples for the books, what you have is 2 versions per example. You have a performance tempo version, which is filmed with some kind of backing track, as you've heard today, and then you'll have a slow tempo version, which is filmed with a chordal metronome. And so a chordal metronome would be something where there's like a block piano chord at the start of the bar or at each chord change, and then a very simple drum beat that goes through either swing 8th note or straight 8th note, depending on what we're demonstrating. So you can hear the bass line with some harmonic backing and with some rhythmic backing as well. And there's also some bonus lessons and MP3s to download. So if you're interested in that, go and check that out at your local Amazon. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's a new style of video for me, so I'm just experimenting with things. Don't hesitate to email me and let me know what you think. If I can and if I remember, I'll try and enable the comments on this video so you can leave comments. But thank you for your time watching this. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next video.